The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 seconds, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists, Dan Eve, the Crypto Raptor,
Greetings and salutations.
Josh Shigala from Voltoro.
In the future, you own Bitcoin and you'll be happy.
Oscar Geezer from the Unchained Convention.
Such a pleasure for the offline memes.
And I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network. Moving on to issue one. Issue one, Bitcoin plunge erases $100 billion in 24 hours. Here's how long the bloodbath could last, as well as Bitcoin could plunge 90% into a winter, lasting years after another surge. Crypto exchange founder says, suddenly the news in Bitcoin has gotten dark. It was only weeks ago people were telling me that the price of Bitcoin would go up forever, and now suddenly Bobby Lee is saying that it might go to 300K and then down 90%, as well as Forbes telling us about a bloodbath. Dan Eve, are the good times over? Is the price of Bitcoin going to go down?
Well, you just got to look at the current price now at like 52K, and even if it was 45K, it's 45K. And at Christmas, like, December last year, end of December, it was what, like 25, something like that. So it's come a long way. And I saw a stat the other day. I can't credit it, but credit goes to whoever said it. I can't remember who it was, but they said like something like 95% of people who bought Bitcoin are in profit right now, because of the fact that, most people seem to hold, and the price it always seems to hit another all-time high, whether it's, a couple of months or 4 years, you're going to get another all-time high. There's always going to be like the doom and gloom articles, and you can sensationalize and say, $100 billion in 24 hours, but it recoups it relatively quick after. And yeah, we're already back up to, I don't know, now it's something like 54, something like that, isn't it? 54, 154. There you go. So I think we've got to praise the good times, and we're in good times despite a bit of red.
You could be one of the first 100 to hit the thumbs up button. Josh Shigala.
I always laugh at these sort of ridiculous statements because, it's how's anybody meant to know anything? You have the whole world crumbling around us in terms of this ridiculous farce that we're living through, an overreaction. But then on top of that, you've got so many people are defaulting on their loans, and so many people are defaulting on their rental payments, on their shops. Shops are closing down like crazy, and that means banking's could have a crisis very easily. I'm surprised that they haven't already. And where are safe havens? Safe havens are in rare assets, land, in Bitcoin, in bullion, in forestry, in things that people need. This notion that Bitcoin could plunge right now, I think is a little bit ridiculous. I definitely think that it could stick around this price point or go up and down. But at the end of the day, it's also stupid to make predictions in this space because you never know. Some country just bans it all of a sudden and then it goes down. And then sometimes it goes up. So it's so hard to know. And these sorts of people that are writing these articles should be very, very wary of themselves, because they're the sorts of people that, I've had friends listen to and then miss out, and they've like fallen into depressions. And it goes the other way too. They're the same sorts of people that keep going like, it's going to buy, everybody buy, right when it's at the top, and then people listen to them, buy, and get fully wrecked when it goes down. So I tend to look at the fundamentals, look at what's happening in the world, and think, is my money safer in the bank? Is it safer in some gold or silver, or is it safer in Bitcoin? And then you can make your mind up on that.
As Adam Meister says, pound that like button. Oscar Geezer.
Yeah, what to say? What to say? If they're writing like it could go down, normally we see that they're saying, yeah, it goes down, it goes down. It's a worst crisis. So if they're talking hypothesis, everything is fine. Just noise, no signal. What more to say?
It's always the same. And now moving on to the exit question. Exit question: will the price of Bitcoin be higher or lower this time next week? Dan Eve.
Okay, so I'm like 3 weeks wrong now because I went like 65, 75, and then pulled it back and said like 65. Now I still think we have a chance at having a bumpy rump. So I'm gonna say 65 again. Screw it, I'm there. 65.
Josh Shigala, higher or lower?
Yeah, I've been looking at all the technicals, and I did the news show yesterday where I showcased what I think is going to happen in the next couple of days. Of course, I could be wrong, and everything is exactly what I said, but it's about just percentages and chances. It's not about yes or no, but I think we have about a 35.832% chance of it going higher.
That's very exact. Oscar, your prediction, higher or lower?
Higher, of course, yeah. Since I think we've already seen the maximum of a possible correction. If I see like the mainstream outside, everyone is looking for its chance to stack new sets. That is like the noise I hear from the street, and yeah.
And now the magical Bitcoin predictor ball. Will the price of Bitcoin be higher this time next week? You have to be very specific. Outlook good. Outlook good. The ball hath spoken. Moving on to issue 2. Issue 2. You could buy a Tesla with Bitcoin in the US. Yes, Tesla has done what they said they would do and more. You can buy a Bitcoin with Tesla. They'll accept it via so-called open source software. I assume BTC Pay server, but I haven't looked into it. And according to Elon Musk, Tesla will hold your Bitcoin. So this isn't like BitPay back in the day where they're just creating sell pressure on Bitcoin. They're actually interested in taking Bitcoin from you in exchange for a car, a very nice car. Josh Shigala, should people be trading their Bitcoin for Teslas? Or is this Elon Musk's clever scheme to get people to give him Bitcoin?
Yeah, it's really well done, because this is how companies buy Bitcoin at spot price. They buy it from people for services, and this is what Bitcoin was for. And I mean, originally when we all got into this game, we were, saying it was for coffee, and it is with the Lightning Network, and I use it all the time with the Lightning Network. I got to say, like, I just love the Lightning Network. It's really fun. But at the end of the day, it is for trading and not for converting back to fiat. I actually bought a Tesla recently, but I bought it using the MakerDAO, and I traded. So I didn't even have to sell the crypto. I just got some DAI and then converted that and bought one. So it's, there's lots of ways to buy a cool car. I got to keep the crypto, but if you send crypto directly to Elon, he'll also keep it. So I think it's really cool. I think it's this is the start where companies will just start keeping the Bitcoin, because that way they buy it at spot instead of trying to buy massive amounts of it, changing the market.
Oscar, do you plan to add to Elon's crypto hoard?
No. I don't imagine to join. But the funny thing about that now taking place is Skylar on Twitter tweeted, I think 1 month ago, a screenshot with the implementation of the Bitcoin payment, and I retweeted that, and I also got the response, and it was really like after days, somebody, I think the guys from Full Mode, checked it out and tried to replicate it, and they said, "Oh no, it's not online now," but it just the screen showed that it could be so easy if you just want it, yeah. And the only problem is the regulation, or nobody just talking, yeah, like talk is cheap. And now they really did it, like the way Scarlett announced it 1 month ago, and it just works, yeah. And the way I think, as far as I know, he implemented that is really like a advocation of Bitcoin, and that is great.
It is amazing to see Tesla do as they said they would do. Dan Eve, your thoughts on Tesla and Bitcoin?
Well, it's definitely two good, cool packages in one. So firstly, a big, huge business, and actually $1 trillion business, right? Is it still roughly $1 trillion, or was recently Tesla? So it's not just a small business or even just, a mediocre international business. This is like a big baller that's not only accepting Bitcoin, but putting Bitcoin, on the balance sheet as well. The fact that they're not selling it is awesome, because it's not, as we said, not contributing to dumping pressure. And maybe this will set the standards for other people. Again, it's that cascade of, oh, Elon's doing it, Tesla's doing it, they're a big company, it's going to open the floodgates up for other companies to be like, right, let's take advantage of this and not fall behind. Whether other car manufacturers try and get in quick and ride that wave, that to me would be kind of a good PR thing, right? If Tesla, probably they're a huge company, but I'm not sure they sell in terms of as many volume as other car manufacturers. So wouldn't it be cool if Ford suddenly go, or someone, General Motors are like, yeah, bang, get the Bitcoin in, and then it just completely waterfalls after that, and everyone jumps on it. So I think it's a good thing overall. And yeah, I did briefly look at what happened to kind of Overstock. They do still accept Bitcoin, but they don't really get talked about much recently. So I wonder how that's sort of panning out for them, whether they did sell or whether they did stock up, or I don't know. That'd be interesting.
I'm not
Good
sure
things for Tesla.
Particulars, but I do think since they ousted CEO Patrick Byrne, they probably panic sold their Bitcoin and don't want to tell you or the shareholders about it. But there was that idea back in the day where Overstock was holding a certain percentage of it, and they were a revolutionary company because they were thinking about this. But at the same time, even they agreed, like, we can't pay our suppliers with Bitcoin. We sell widgets, we need to buy more widgets, and we can't pay our widget suppliers with Bitcoin. So it was a bit of a stuck game for them there.
Yeah, but I don't buy that. And this is what I've said to shop owners since day one. You are not going to get so many people walking through paying in Bitcoin. The few that you do get, you keep, because, like, let's say you sell a widget, and maybe once a year someone comes and buys one with Bitcoin. Well, just deal with that. It's not like you're going to go broke. If you are, then maybe you need to look at your business model, because you should have some sort of buffer there. Even Patrick Byrne, I'm pretty sure people weren't buying that many bed sheets that the company couldn't deal with other reserves. Money is fungible.
I still wouldn't mind a Bitcoin refund for my wind chime. My wind chime is looking rather haggard and old, and that Bitcoin would be fresh and new. So
that's true. It would be fresh and new and expensive.
But yes, Tesla and Bitcoin. Moving back to the exit question, forced prediction, personal question. We'll start off with Josh because we know the answer. Would you buy a Tesla? Would you buy a Tesla with Bitcoin?
I would buy it by, saving up enough to put into a smart contract and then buy it like that without selling the Bitcoin.
Josh sticks with his original answer. Oscar, would you buy a Tesla? Would you buy a Tesla with Bitcoin? Oh, you're unmuted. Got to unmute. Still muted. Dun, dun, dun. Uh-oh.
Hello?
There you go. Would you buy a Tesla? Would you buy a Tesla?
Of course. I would do so, but not at the actual exchange rate. Yeah, something between 80,000 and 100,000 US dollars. I would do one like for the spiritual dimension. Yeah, and I would buy it. I would buy it with my own Bitcoin. I wouldn't do something like with a smart contract or or like with a loan. So yeah, that would be like a donation to the ecosystem.
Nice.
You'd be sending your Bitcoin to Mars. Dan Eve, would you get a Tesla? Would you get a Tesla with Bitcoin?
I just can't spend anymore. I've been depressingly looking back at silly things that I did. Like I spent like half a Bitcoin of art at CoinFest on art in CoinFest in 2017, and obviously, you know, that's probably still worth roughly the same dollar value it was, but the Bitcoin's worth loads. So I think there's going to have to be something really appealing to pry it from my cold dead hands.
Yeah, it seemed earlier on my personal plans, I was like, oh yeah, save this one for a Tesla, save that one for the house, save this. But then there's just less and less all the time. So now it's like, maybe I would do a 0.1 for a Tesla. But then again, it's like this, it's kind of a niche item. Like if you live near a city and you commute every day, like you need a Tesla. That's cool. You're saving gas, you have that self-driving, you're commuting every day. That all makes sense to me. But if you really don't drive that much, and you've been inside with a stupid pandemic for a year, like you don't exactly need a fancy electric car right now. It would be cool because it looks like a Star Trek shuttlecraft and has doors that go like this. Right? Like I need doors that go like that. My current doors, they do not do that. But no, not yet. No Teslas yet. But I do see lots of people on the internet getting Teslas and even Aston Martins and other things. So did you know the World Crypto Network has its own audio podcast, and you can listen to audio versions of this show without the video? It's amazing new technology. Wherever podcasts are heard, Apple, Spotify, all the places. Also, just today, I opened up an Instagram. We don't really have any followers, but we're going to post some more pictures on there of World Crypto Network type stuff and whatever you do on Instagram. I'm told it's very popular. Issue 3. Crypto firm blockchain.com rides Bitcoin mania to a $5.2 billion valuation. Blockchain.com has raised $300 million in a quote unquote mega fundraising round, valuing the company at $5.2 billion. Just 1 month ago, the company raised $120 million at a $3 billion valuation. At the same time, Bitcoin sleuthing startup Chainalysis doubles their valuation to $2 billion, this time with backing by Salesforce CEO Mark Benioff. Dan Eve, what's going on with these crypto companies and their valuations? They are raising tons of money. Is it worth it?
Well, it seems like they're definitely benefiting from the bull runners as well. You know, it's kind of, you know, maybe it's that in a gold rush, people buy like the diggers and stuff, you know, the mining tools, and you know, maybe in this case, the mining tools are the blockchain companies. So you know, I can imagine these companies that are putting some money into Bitcoin, then some money into actual companies that are working on Bitcoin-based products that have longevity, so that in a Bitcoin crash, at least there's you know, still income coming in from whatever services that are being provided. But I think it's a good thing that there's so much investment in the space. It's kind of worrying when you think about it, that there's so much money now into Bitcoin snooping, and how good is that snooping going to be? And you know, realistically, with FATFA coming in on heavy, like the initial heavy regulation on, say, DeFi space and NFTs and stuff, that probably, you know, gives a bit of a background as to why Chainalysis has got so much backing at the moment, because you know, regulators around the world are going to want that control. They're going to want to monitor and see where all the money's moving. They're going to eventually kind of kick off a bit more about coin joins and things like that. And you know, it's a sad thing for Bitcoiners to see that element of privacy sort of slipping away. But yeah, hopefully we'll be able to kind of, I don't know, mitigate that with more kind of cool stuff like coin joins and and other incognito mode transactions.
I agree, Dan. We picked these two companies for a reason. They are particularly unique in this space. Just reminding everyone, still a chance to push thumbs up and be one of the first 50 people to like this show. There are 45 people watching live, so you're obviously going to be one of the first 50 people. Josh Shigala, what about the two new firms, blockchain.com and Coinalysis?
Yeah, blockchain.com, you know, they've been around forever, and they were the first company to have trustless online wallets, because back in the day, the online wallets were all, you know, hosted by people, and they weren't encrypted, and they would run off with everyone's Bitcoin, and are probably billionaires right now. But blockchain.com built the first one where it was fully encrypted on your end, on the browser end. So they couldn't do that. And that was a really big thing, you know, back then. So I just am fascinated by the fact that they raised that much, because I guess it's the name, but I haven't heard them really innovate that much for a long time. And that's unfortunate, because they are really innovative. No, they are. And it's just, I would like to see them innovate more. Saying that, you know, I don't really know.
There's always still a chance for any of these companies to, again, take a stand on Lightning. Get out there and get ahead of this with the Lightning thing. I don't think that the market's been cornered on Lightning. A lot of these companies that maybe were on the wrong side of the scaling war and they feel bad about it, maybe it's time to put that aside and get that new business. Because again, I think with blockchain.com, what we're really looking at is, you know, who's PayPal going to buy? They're not going to buy Coinbase. Blockchain.com is getting pretty big. It might be a merger. But again, what are they going to merge for? A wallet? The way to buy Bitcoin? There's lots of ways to buy Bitcoin now. There's not lots of ways to do Lightning really easy. There's not lots of other really neat new technologies that they could be serving to people.
Yeah, BitPay should definitely take Lightning. Like BitPay is, it would be such an awesome move if they did that. That would really help them massively.
And again, what a comeback! And no one would care. Like again, if Roger wants to come back, if BitPay wants to come back, all these people just want you to be on the right side of the issue. They're not going to be like, "Oh, you were wrong before," blah blah. No, we will completely forget that. Say nice things about BitPay. But again, like you're saying, the innovation, these old firms, they have tons of money. We know they have kind of cypherpunk people at the top, like initially. They had a reason to get into Bitcoin. I don't know what it is specifically, but they don't do anything, right? They're not exciting. And instead, we've got, like Josh was saying yesterday on the news, CoinKite with the block clock. They made the little thing that Jack from Twitter puts in his background. Like, that could have been Coinbase. That could have been blockchain.com. Even Blockstream, honorable mention. They make a lot of hats. You know, that's something. It's kind of outside the box a little.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and in terms of Chainalysis, you know, the thing with Chainalysis is it's a brilliant business, because no one actually uses them, but everyone has to pay for a subscription. So if you're a Bitcoin company and you want to be regulated, you got to you know, pay the regulators, and to pay the regulators, they got to tick the boxes. And one of the boxes is, do you have a Chainalysis style thing? And of course, you have to say, okay, I will get, and then you pay them, and then you check the box. And the regulators never ask for it. You know, I'm not saying that just like that. Like I've noticed, and I've talked to certain people, and lots of people in the space, and they all say the same. No one's ever checked what the Chainalysis stuff. So the data that Chainalysis may give all these different companies is never really used at all. So I think the only way you can do stuff is like by, say you get a transaction, and one transaction ago it came from the dark web. You know, that sort of stuff's useful, because you're like, oh, okay, boom, done. But,
Jack Hughes.
But in terms of like the deeper stuff, it's like no one, you know, it's just a great business model, because everyone has to buy it. It's forced by the state to have this stuff, by pretty much every government. and you know, you just wouldn't really use it that often.
That is an interesting idea, Josh. I hadn't thought that everyone was required to buy it. And now that I think it's a lot more likely that there'll be a Chainalysis 2 competing with them rather than zero Chainalysis like I would like to see.
Yeah, there'll be many Chainalysis companies. Yeah, I mean, there's already a few. What's the big miner that? Anyway, there's a few.
Let's go to Oscar. Your thoughts on blockchain.com and Chainalysis? Oh, gotta unmute.
Yeah. I think yeah. To keep it short, we're seeing a very interesting phenomenon here. Like possibly the NFTs, the NFT bull market is in the driving seat now, at the steering wheel, and company evaluations like from blockchain.com and Chainalysis are following. Yeah. So possibly it's a change of paradigm. No, but me personal, being an investor. From that perspective, I would prefer to speculate on rare paper, and yeah, I think that would be much more fun and valuable than putting your money in a company like Chainalysis. But yeah, that's up to the world outside. Yeah.
That is a good point, Oscar. The entire raise by blockchain.com of $300 million is only what 4 or 5 of those Beeple pieces at $70 million. So maybe they just should have sold NFTs instead of raising traditional venture capital. They could have just made some really nice garbage pail kids or something.
Yeah, know. And at the end, it's also only token, right?
Exit question. Will Chainalysis continue? Should every Bitcoin programmer worth their salt be trying to make Chainalysis's value go to zero? Dan Eve.
Oh, well, that sounds a bit mean when you put it like that. I mean, obviously, you know, there's good reasons why you'd have it in terms of, you know, protecting people and stuff, and there's apparently the good reasons behind knowing all the money flows and stuff. But I suppose developers are already doing that with coin joins. You know, these and other services. These are all services that are there to evade you know, the peaking eyes of Chainalysis and other, you know, and governments and any other even services. Now they're saying, right, if you come from a mixing service, for example, then they're not accepting the Bitcoin in some ways. So developers are working around that, and hopefully they continue to. And the governments really, what should happen is governments just go, look, screw it. You're not going to be able to kill it. You're not going to be able to control it, and you're not going to be able to do analysis because of all the ninja stuff that's coming out with hiding transactions. So let's just let the ball roll.
I don't want to be mean, but if your business model is the Ministry of Information from 1984, I think you should go out of business. Yeah, I'm willing to stand on that. Josh Shigala, your thoughts on surveillance technology in the future? You're muted now.
Yeah, I mean, people, you know, the information graph that Bitcoin leaves behind it is so extraordinarily interesting that there's always going to be people building tools to make sense of the graph. The thing is, they haven't got a chance in the long run because things like Taproot, things like Lightning Network, even just stuff like decentralized exchanges, and then on top of that, you've got centralized things like Shapeshift that also just obfuscate. Yeah, you've got some sort of control over that centralized version of what happened, but it's getting to the point that they don't really have a chance in the long run. And this is why I laugh at regulators. Like, no, look, and you know, regulators, they need to do their thing. They need to make the rules and stuff. I'm not, you know, bashing on them too hard, but the fact of the matter is these people don't know what they're doing, and they're going, oh, these guys follow they do Chainalysis, and so we're going to force all companies to use them. The fact of the matter is they can barely see what sort of information. The blockchain's already really opaque, and trying to make it more transparent. Sure, go for it, try, but it's heading more and more opaque. And there is, so if you really want to do something bad, you can hide your stuff. You'll only catch the odd person that bumbles their way through. At the end of the day, crimes should be busted by doing good old-fashioned police work and busting the crime, because following the money side of things is a very new concept. It's a very new idea. It's not a new idea. It's only been possible really very recently with the whole networking banks. But the cash business, you know, get back to good old-fashioned police work. That's how you catch the criminals.
Oscar, will Bitcoin developers think of a way to turn Chainalysis business cards into collectibles?
Ooh, that is really a difficult question. But I would say in any case, we really need companies like Chainalysis for for giving the governments or giving the regulators a feeling that they are still in control, that they get the data, and mainly to burn their resources, right? So it's a good thing for the ecosystem.
It's like setting a bunch of hamsters loose. They have like a lot of spinning wheels now, so they'll take good care of the government. Yes. All right, let's move on to issue 4. Issue 4, a good probability that the U.S. will outlaw Bitcoin. Ray Dalio, Bridgewater's associate founders, joins influencers with Andy Sewer and shared his thoughts that the U.S. government will outlaw Bitcoin. Obviously, we're going to ask you guys the same question. Is Bitcoin dangerous? Do you think the government will outlaw it? And more important, is that really feasible? Let's go to Oscar first. Will the government outlaw Bitcoin?
Ooh, quite tough for me, speaking as a German, to say how the regulators will act tomorrow. Yeah, we still don't know if our stores are allowed to open up tomorrow, if we are allowed to go to the supermarket. So it's unpredictable. The government and the regulators are unpredictable somehow. No idea.
Dan, Eve.
Never. You can't. You could ban it, but then people are going to have, like, you know, there'll be VPNs, there'll be other things, that other services that people use to get around it, and yeah, I just can't. It's just whack-a-mole, because as soon as it's like an arms race, isn't it? But an arms race with money, and there's that kind of synergy with the fact that, you know, you print money and you go to war. That's the historical thing for people to do. But it's an arms race of technology, and it's a cat and mouse game. You know, all those little sayings you can use. But as soon as you whack one mole, then another Bitcoin mole will pop up out of another hole with all sorts of, you know, different other coin joins and ninja tech. So I think it can't be killed, and I think that with the fact that, again, you know, I'm not picking Tesla all the time specifically, but they're a $1 trillion company that now accept Bitcoin. So that's a huge thing, and that shows that, you know, this is someone that's going to the moon as well. You know, so his fingers in all these different pies. And surely, if someone who's been that successful and, you know, who's kind of lived the American dream, for example, you know, you're going to be cutting that off with Bitcoin as one of these latest technologies. So I think that any country now is seriously considering, rather than banning it, making a public statement about the uses of it in order to get ahead of the game in the latest arms race.
Josh Shigala, is Dan right? Have we flipped? Are they now ready for Bitcoin?
It's tricky. I mean, last week I said all governments will probably ban it eventually. But at the same time, I think about it a lot, and I think Dan's right. Like, first of all, you can't ban it, right? You can ban the on and off ramps, and that's all. You can ban it. You can put people in prison if they get busted. But what do governments really think about? They want their taxes. They want their share of value that's being created by citizenry that are within their geographical confines. And so how taxation has worked for 99% of human existence or government existence is being through threat of force. Through if we find out that you're lying, you'll go to prison. That not automatic like it is nowadays, where it's just automatically taken out of your wage, and if you know, if you don't pay it, they just reach into your bank account and take it. That's all very new. So I think they have no choice but to say, hey, we're going to you know, allow this stuff, because it's not just Bitcoin. You could say ban Bitcoin, but there's this whole realm of NFTs and game items, in-game items, and kids trading gun skins, and this will all be tokenized. So on top of that, you've got this whole DeFi space, which has got millions and billions of different coins, and you know, it's this huge ecosystem, and if you ban it, people will just go into the black market, and then you can't get anything. So I'm pretty sure that they won't ban it, but they will say, if we find out that you aren't paying your due amount, then you will go to prison. And we've got Chainalysis. So you better do as we say.
I agree with the panel here. The government, they can't ban Bitcoin. It's just technologically not possible. It's like banning water. They'd have to turn off the internet. But Josh is right. They can turn off the off and on ramps. And the way I like to think of that is Bitcoin quality of life. Right now, Bitcoin quality of life is pretty good. You can buy it, you can sell it, you can trade it for some items. No one really cares. There's no real problems with it. They could make that bad, right? Coinbase is a big company, but they could make it bad for them. They could shut this down. So I think they will. And there'll be a time where Bitcoin is kind of the underground money. It's like, oh yeah, I only use that when I do my underground stuff. Usually I use Fed coin, but you know, I got a little bit of Bitcoin on the side for my underground stuff. And again, Bitcoin doesn't care. Bitcoin just keeps making blocks, being out there, not worrying about this. Fed coin's invented. Fed coin goes up and down. People start liking Bitcoin, not liking Bitcoin. It doesn't care. But yes, they can make your quality of life worse. So if you like your exchanges right now, or you can easily sell 1,000 for rent or whatever, if you like telling people it's easy to install the apps, they can ban the apps from the App Store. They can ban the exchanges from using your bank accounts. They can do all these things. And I think they will do all these things, or it'll be too late, and they'll adopt the nice strategy that Dan's suggesting. But again, I don't know. Are they that smart? I don't know if they're smart enough to pull back and lose control like that.
Yeah, but I think that will completely do. They don't have to ban it. People are convenient. Corporate clients who are now going into Bitcoin, they really take care to do it in a correct, formal way. So most of the people outside who will get onboarded, who are already like in the onboarding process and will get onboarded in the future, like they are so convenient, and they will so go along with the regulation that they will, by controlling the off and on ramping, they will have like 90% of the market. Yeah, and that will do. It's the same with travel regulations. Yeah, if you go for international travel, yeah, you don't see yourself controlled in the way they say it in the media. So it's okay. Yeah, they're controlling 90% of the people who don't go for travel anymore. Yeah, but you can do it. And the people like your followership here that is familiar with the technology and with the software and and the design of Bitcoin, they will always have a way to go the other way. You know, and so it's a coexistence, and it's okay. Why not?
Well, that's what Andreas always said. He said we would hide our transactions in cat pictures. And that's what Josh was kind of alluding to with NFTs, but then the NFTs are even more complicated because you could hide a Bitcoin transaction in an NFT, in an item. So there's all kinds of options there. But instead of asking the traditional question, can the government ban Bitcoin? Because we always say, no, they'd have to turn off the internet, or they could just turn off the on and on ramps, right? They could make your life really miserable and uncomfortable. More importantly, now that we have new friends, does this put a new layer between the government banning Bitcoin? Because they'd have to have a hearing, and they'd have to say, Michael Saylor, Elon Musk, and Jack from Twitter, you're big Bitcoiners. Obviously, would they speak up for us? Would it make a difference? Dan, Eve, now that Bitcoin has powerful friends?
Yeah, I think so. And if the balance sheets of those companies at the time are doing okay because of their Bitcoin holdings, you know, if the government ultimately wants money, and money wants power, and money gives them power, and going back to that insane article from like 2017, which is like, all those Bitcoiners are getting hilariously rich, but you're not. That with the Christmas Bitcoin jumpers or whatever. Bitcoin obviously makes a lot of people wealthy, and and so why would you restrict your nation's ability to get wealthy and for the government to get wealthy off of the nation? You should be almost, no, we're not encouraging it, but there should be a leniency, because if this is bringing money into the country, then it will also make money leave the country. If you were to ban it, those services will go away. They will go to other countries, unless there was a global ubiquitous slam down, in which case, I don't know, I'd love to see the whack-a-mole in that case, and how big that multi-armed whack-a-mole would need to be. But ultimately it still wouldn't work, because they'd have to turn the last computer off.
What Dan said, I had almost like a lightning bolt at the beginning of that conversation. We're all picturing Elon and Jack and Saylor walking in as successful CEOs that invested their company's money wisely and did well. There's a whole alternate universe there where the Bitcoin price goes down and they're not ready for it, and it's raining outside and there's thunder, and they're like, we have ruined our companies, but we're still here to stand for Bitcoin. And then it's like, do they have any credibility if they've ruined their companies? Josh Shigala, do they have to be successful to be good warriors for Bitcoin? This is a good film. I want to see both sides of this.
Yeah, sliding doors style. No, you took the words right out of my mouth. It's exactly where I was going. The thing is, right now, all those CEOs are sitting in a good times. It's when you're going through a bear market. It's when you're down 90%. 80%, and you're thinking, oh man, I have to pay rent now, and all my money's in crypto, or 10% of it is, if you're a big holder, whatever. It's in those times where you really have to ask yourselves what happened. And now picture this: the economy is crashing. Mortgages are getting defaulted on, whatever else. Bitcoin's in a bear market because it's crashing along with the major stock markets, and because they're tied to the stocks now of these major companies, and it's just in one of those, maybe the timing was just right that the bears came along at the same time. Sentiment's down, people want to find the bottom, they're not buying till it's the bottom, and now the government's like, well, we got to do something. We got to do massive economic reform. First stop that Bitcoin. Just stop that. And Elon hasn't got a foot to stand on, because he's down massively from his Bitcoin investing. Michael Saylor's just now a joke, because his company was losing money before Bitcoin. The only reason it's up is because of Bitcoin. Let's say the Bitcoin's down, he's now also struggling to find a good answer. And so governments can really, and then if you use the media to really destroy Bitcoin and say that some terrorist used it or something like that, or it's being used for nefarious purposes, they're just the same old stuff that's always been done. You could quite easily ban Bitcoin, and you won't have those powerful friends. That's for sure. But so, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
I can see them with the pitchforks, Josh. I can see them like banging this immoral gambling, this Bitcoin. It seduced our youth. Our youth got the NFTs and they started gambling on leverage trading and blah, 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 all this stuff. And we must protect the children from the Bitcoin.
Exactly. Protect the children from the Bitcoin.
Oscar, what about you? Protect the children? Which side will it go?
Protect the children. No, the last story is the grandmas starting to stack sets, for their smaller ones. Yeah, that is quite interesting. Yeah, and
we have to grandma proof our technology now. That's gonna be tough.
Yeah, Yeah. And to educate them is not so tricky like you could imagine. Yeah, if they really want, they can really work well with the Trezor. Yeah, and
they could use tour. Grandma's on tour, finding their ways around networks.
Yeah. They're more smart than the regulators to consider. But like to your initial question, I think like one huge value of Bitcoin that emerges now more and more is like the DAO marketing department and the guys who know are onboarding like Michael Saylor and Elon Musk, like they're really like they're the storyteller of today, yeah. And whatever the regulators want to deliver to the recipients, like what kind of information, it's really hard, like because like Jack Dorsey is controlling one of the most powerful social media platforms, and Elon Musk like is also like the shooting star of general interest media. So the price, if we see that as a price, the price for working or for claiming the narrative has risen enormous from my point of view.
It's interesting. I feel like we've gone full circle here where, Michael Saylor, he's an investment company. They're all into Bitcoin. There's not much more they could do. Elon, he's a car company, to talk about Tesla. They accept Bitcoin for their cars now. They're in. That's pretty much what they can do. To look at the third one, at Jack, and to say, I feel like we're going back to our pasts here. Twitter Bitcoin tipping could be the most important thing. This could be the tipping point. And as much as we were critical of Change Tip back in the day and all that, an integrated Bitcoin tipping system would tie Twitter, as Oscar said, this major communications tool, to Bitcoin. And it would tie it where they'd become interchangeable. And you'd be like, well, yeah, I was on Twitter and I sent a tip and I got a tip and I cashed out some bits and some Bitcoin, and people could learn all kinds of things from this. This could be much bigger than Cash App, much bigger than Square, because it really does tie his fortunes together in a way that Zuckerberg clearly didn't want to do on Facebook. Facebook went to a lot of trouble to invent some other coin that wasn't Bitcoin, and they changed the name 2 or 3 times, and I forgot it now. So I don't remember what it was, but it's still going to come out. Meanwhile, Jack, who could have done that at Twitter, they could have said, we're going to make Twitter coin or whatever and something. No, he sticks with Bitcoin. So I think it's going to be interesting. One to watch.
I really hope he does something like that. And I've wondered why he hasn't. Why, at least release it to a small group on crypto Twitter, like he has with Spaces.
He's been going so slow. Like we know, obviously we know, and other people can know that, Change Tip met with Twitter back in the day. They were in San Francisco. They went to the offices. They met with, I don't know Jack, but some people at the top. They knew that Bitcoin tipping was happening. It was a little spammy, I think, the way it was integrated. But if you were inside of Twitter, you could make it much less spammy, and you could do it. And it raises all the same problems I think Facebook was running into with Libra. I remembered one of their names, and if you start sending money around, you're a money transmitter, and the money laundering and all the problems that we talked about earlier. But still, Twitter, I don't know. Twitter needs to do it. I feel it's this one social network to conquer them all. I feel like the way I did when I was using Spaces last week, like they're going after Clubhouse. When I see the little fleets at the top of the screen, they're going after Snapchat. Instagram already stole everything from Snapchat. Like Twitter's kind of like Instagram too. They could be the one.
But it becomes so overzealous that that they would probably be forced to take KYC on everyone, and then they'll say, "Oh, that also stops the scammers." So and then they'll just button on down to really KYC the heck out of everyone user, and then you get Voice, who went nowhere because they wanted to KYC everyone to become a member of their social networks. I think that's what's probably holding Jack back, is that as soon as you start dealing with actual assets that people think is valuable, but that to me also says that governments see this as currency, as money.
Well, and much as we love Jack and Twitter, let's not forget the Twitter API. Twitter used to be a much more open platform, and you could build a third-party tool and you could interact with Twitter, and everyone lauded them for it and said how great it was. And then, of course, Twitter predictably clawed back the API, killed all of the independent third-party tools. And they could do this again. They could be Bitcoin's best pal today. They could mint their own coin tomorrow. It could be a lot easier to run Twitter tips on a SQL database. I imagine that's what the tech department's saying right now anyway. But it's definitely one to watch. And I still think, as far as Twitter, one network to rule them all. I'm trying not to use Instagram. I'm just putting pictures on Twitter. I don't have to use Clubhouse anymore. I can use Twitter Spaces and have audio chats. I get all my little news things that used to be a Facebook thing. All they need is a way to have friends and share photos. And we can all quit Facebook and just use Twitter. But again, it's the same thing. It's just another master. The internet didn't free you from anything because of the way they built the architecture based upon advertising and startup funds that were given to people that would sell you out to advertisers. But no one wants to talk about that. Moving on to issue 5. Bitcoin rally stirs Bank of America alarm on enormous surge in energy use. And we talk about energy use all the time. We know this is a red herring. This is nothing to worry about for Bitcoin. Even today, a company called Argo Blockchain launched a hydropower only, yes, a renewable Bitcoin pool where Bitcoin can be generated, shock, from clean hydropower. Many cases, it's difficult to have batteries, which are expensive, near hydro dams, and transmitting power over great distances, you lose power. So instead, you could store that power in Bitcoin right there at the dam. Hydro energy never stops. It runs all the time. So it's really sensible. We understand what's happening there. But what I think is what's important about this article is that it's Bank of America, a competitor to Bitcoin, who is warning you about the enormous use of energy in Bitcoin. So Dan, Eve, the banks are warning us that a competitor uses too much energy. Should we be greatly concerned?
Well, I'd just like to point out that actually Bank of America were in the top 4 of the top banking companies that invested 3.8 trillion into fossil fuels over the last since 2015. So that's a lot of money that's going into fossil fuel usage. So for BAM to sit there and be like, oh, Bitcoin, bam, 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 and whilst they're literally in the background, like, plugging away fossil fuels, it's a bit hypocritical, really. And obviously, you point out it's a competitor. They're not going to, they're sitting there crapping themselves because they're making so much money out of remittance. And let's face it, banks dominate the money laundering markets. They absolutely smash money laundering. That's why they get fined all the time. And there's so many fines. It's only because Bitcoin shot up that we no longer have the comparisons of like, oh, HSBC laundered 5 times the amount of the whole Bitcoin market cap last year, or whatever. That we don't have those stories anymore because Bitcoin's grown so much. But what we do have now is just the eco FUD, and that's basically it. And I think it's really good to see companies that are taking advantage, but pointing out where they're being green and using excess energy. The things that the technology that we have to store excess energy from wind power and whatever isn't fantastic. There's all sorts of crazy things, from gravitational batteries where they lift a huge weight up in the air during excess energy and then it just slowly drops back down and grinds some gears and whatever. Or pumping water uphill, really abstract, odd things where let's just pump the water uphill with the energy while it's here, and then we let it flow back down again into another reservoir. I think whilst they're struggling to find ways of storing this energy, the most logical thing, full stop, is to use excess energy from renewables. And that's, again, a lot of research is showing that Bitcoin is centered around excess energy from renewables because it goes cheap. Otherwise, it goes to waste. If you can't use the electricity, if you can't send it miles across the land and there aren't homes using it, then you might as well have something there using it and not wasting the electricity. So if anything, Bitcoin is like an electricity wasting sponge that turns it into something valuable. So I think it's going to spur on a lot more innovation into green tech than we're hearing, and hopefully that's going to counter a lot of these arguments with a boatload of evidence soon. At the moment, you've got kind of sporadic projects that are doing things, and it's not so mainstream, that information. But the more companies that do it and put their green badge on, then I think it's going to be easier to combat that eco sadness.
Well, I agree with Dan. When I think of environmentalism, I think of Bank of America. Josh Shigala.
Yeah, I mean, we've covered this topic so often on the show. It really is ridiculous, and I don't know what else to say about it. That when you're trying to find the answer to a difficult puzzle, and it's going to cost you a lot of money in power, you try to find the cheapest power you can, and the cheapest power you can is in the renewable sector. It really is. When there's heat coming out of the earth and you can capture it, when there's water running down a river and you can capture it, it's just constant and on. When there's waves moving up and down, and when you have excess power at nighttime, you got to do something with it. And if you can mine some Bitcoin, and there's countless stories of energy companies mining Bitcoin at nighttime. During the day, and sometimes at nighttime too, where there's excess power. And so it's just one of these things where Bank of America, I don't know, it's just one report. I don't know if they've actually seeing Bitcoin as some sort of threat or whatever, but usually banks are cleverer than that. They would see something that's investable and buy into it. I just think it's this typical talking point from people that like to bring this topic up ad nauseum. And look, Elon Musk's entire world, the thing that gets him to work so freaking hard apparently, is that he wants to save the world from fossil fuels. That's his thing. Yet he's now buying Bitcoin. So what does that say? He's not a dumb guy, right? He's thinking about it, and he comes to the same conclusion that we come to every second show when we talk about this, is that the best way to mine Bitcoin is with almost free energy. Not free. I mean, obviously there's no such thing, but energy that's in excess.
Well, I definitely think we covered a lot, Josh, but I think it's because it's important, and it's because Bank of America is using propaganda. And the only way to counter propaganda is to use more propaganda. So that's all we can really do, is say again that yes, PlayStations, video game systems that are on but not really on, they use more power than Bitcoin. Christmas lights use more power than Bitcoin. And most importantly, it's just this kind of general fallacy where it's very easy to estimate Bitcoin's energy usage. It's like if you had a little meter and one thing has a meter, and you could say, wow, Bitcoin's using 110 today. And the other thing with the banks, they're also using energy, but you have to add up all these different things and do all this work to figure out, how much does a person in an office cost? How much does an office building cost? How much does terrible investment strategies that hurt the world and hurt people and other things like that cost? And you have to add all that up to get the number. And it's so hard. Like you'd work on
trucks that drive from ATM machine to ATM machine.
Trucks, ATM machines, the armored cars, the cost of printing, the paper in the office, all these things are waste products of the bank, but you'd have to write a dissertation to get that knowledge. Whereas Bitcoin, you just look at the number and you're like, oh, it's at 120. That's more. This is so much more. And the banks are also using power. Oscar, your thoughts on this? Go ahead.
Yeah, it's difficult. We don't have to write dissertations anymore, since whoever wants to believe Bitcoin is a bad thing will do so also in the future, and it will find thousands more of arguments like this one. And I'm totally down with Voltaire's statement, Joshua. It has really become disgusting these days, like poor try of attack. And in my perception, there was a time when it was a serious issue, we had to talk about and to publish things. But nowadays, all explanations are there. Yeah, as long as Google doesn't deplatform these informations, what likely can happen one day. Yeah, there's nothing more to say about that. But just like there's no cost too high for healing this rotten, toxic fiat system. Point.
Yeah. Point. Good point. Well said.
Yes,
well said.
Very good.
Yeah, and I didn't mean that we cover it too much, Thomas. I think it's a very important topic to keep on talking about. Absolutely. It's just sad to see this constantly being trumped up, constantly being brought up ad nauseum. And but it is what it is. Like Oscar said.
That's why I think you're going to love our exit question. What is your favorite Bitcoin FUD from the past that you hope they'll bring back soon? Bitcoin is a Ponzi scheme. Bitcoin is tulips. Bitcoin is similar to another project like BitConnect or OneCoin. Dan, Eve, what's your favorite Bitcoin FUD you'd like to see them bring back soon?
Bitcoin is a rich man's Dogecoin. No, I kind of like it all because it's all so ridiculous. And when I first heard about it in 2013, it was and obviously that's not even early. Things kind of just clicked for me, and it made sense. Bitcoin did, and so I've kind of batted these things off. The only thing like back in the day I thought was the China FUD. The China FUD was quite a fun thing. It was like a roller coaster. As soon as you play the markets, as soon as China came out with something, then short Bitcoin, make money, happy days. But ultimately you got your shield, and Bitcoin is going to bash it off, and there's no problem. It's just going to be a bit of FUD. So I don't know. I can't. In fact, I'll go for China FUD because I liked all the memes. There were loads of funny memes. Or the bit of like leading up to a Bitcoin ETF, it was always like, oh no, slam, no ETF. And so I like those days. I like the kind of big when the crowd goes for something and then it doesn't end up happening. And all of these issues that are brought up, they're brought up ad nauseum, and they're also batted away ad nauseum. And that's the good thing, is the resilience of Bitcoin. It's going, 12 years now. It's like it's a 99.99% uptime. It's not going anywhere. So yeah, I think it's going to take some sort of insane meteoric event, like wiping out all humans before Bitcoin actually dies. So I welcome any FUD, but China FUD was the most fun to me.
I like the China FUD and the ETF FUD. They both feel like Charlie Brown and Lucy with the football. She just keeps pulling it back. And at this point, I'm like, I don't care about your ETF, your China FUD. You can't fool me anymore. No more pulling back the football. Josh Segala, what's your favorite Bitcoin FUD?
My favorite Bitcoin FUD has got to be when an exchange gets hacked and the headline is Bitcoin gets hacked. That's the best one. You're just like, oh God, I want to see more of that again. No, just the fact that stopped actually shows that the market's maturing, that people actually know what's going on now. Because that was actually what spawned me to start Voltoria back when Mt. Gox got hacked, and I just got over. I was just like, it was one of the reasons. One of the reasons was, man, we've got to build an exchange. Like hearing this whole, I'm just so sick of them coming up with nonsense like Bitcoin has been hacked. It's like, no, we've got to make it transparent and show that Bitcoin can't be hacked.
The honorable mention there has to be when they refer to someone as Bitcoin CEO. Oh, and yeah. The sad part about that, I don't want to be flippant, but for years there, the major story was Bitcoin CEO committed suicide. And it's hard to come back from that. It's hard to be like, well, that's not true, but the other half is true. And it's sad, but it's complex situations and whatever. But yeah, Bitcoin CEO does something, is also
found dead or whatever. Yeah.
Found dead. Yeah. Like in a drug den or a criminal thing. And you're always like, damn, that Bitcoin CEO. He's like that Florida man. He's always in trouble. Like Florida man, Bitcoin CEO. Oscar, what's your favorite Bitcoin FUD?
My favorite Bitcoin FUD is something like Bitcoin is only for right-wing people. Yeah, the same like, and now we are back into the NFT business like Rare Pepe. Yeah, Rare Pepe is also like right-wing propaganda. And talking as a conference organizer in our very first year, it was our fault that we invited politicians, and especially that was my first surprise in that ecosystem, that the so-called left wings or social politicians avoided to discuss the topic. So it was not possible to get the whole range of politicians, and there was one major technical magazine in Germany, T3N, and they covered that, and that was my first real shitstorm. That was really tough, and I remember, like, the article started with not all Bitcoiners are right wing, but that is but today it's nice, since that narrative is also already so consumed that we can laugh about that, and that we are grown these days,
Well, I would definitely add to that the Bitcoiners only eat meat, or Bitcoiners don't eat meat, or any of these things where they're just like, oh, Bitcoiners are all white or they're all black or whatever. It's like, it's a mix of people in Bitcoin. Not one group represents them. It's nice to say that they're all nerds or they're all libertarians or whatever, but we're really big. The Bitcoin is really big now, and I think it's everybody. But
I mean, just look at this show. I'm more on the libertarian anarchist side. Thomas is more on the left-leaning side of politics. I don't know where you sit, Raptor. You probably sit there with your little tiny Raptor hands in both pies.
It's hard to hold the voting button with those hands.
It's
yeah. I'm all over the place. I think my political compass is left, but people think I'm right. I mean, like, I don't really know. To be honest, it's all blocks to me. I don't think you can put people in camps of just like 2 or 3 groups. There's you can have, I don't know, different opposing opinions of politics, and I think the main thing that we've just said here is you only need to go to a conference. Now, obviously, back in the day, some of the conferences were quite heavily just dudes, but there's a huge amount of variety now, and it's not just Roger versus like bikini girls anymore. There's actual, like, there's lots of women into crypto. There's lots of big schemes getting more women into crypto. There's lots of schemes around the world to get everyone into Bitcoin. And the fact of the matter is, it's just such a. I mean, obviously the price is a barrier to entry, but it's open source software. You don't need anyone's permission. There's no one who's going the Bitcoin who's like, you're going to put your hand on the keyboard and there, no. Like, it doesn't happen like that. Anyone can just run the software and, start stacking sats, because there's so many places you can get them for free as well. That's the other thing, is even if you don't have money, all you need is a bit of hardware somewhere that you can start stacking sats with by doing random tasks for Bitcoin, because there's plenty of sites like that as well. So yeah, I enjoy the diversity in Bitcoin. I don't think it's really not one political side of things. There's lots of nice variety, and that's good.
I almost managed to pull up the hacker manifesto, but that's what Dan was reminding me there of, the internet. Let's see here. We almost got it. No, I can't find the right part. It's too long. Let's see. There it is. We seek after knowledge, and you call us criminals. We exist without skin color, without nationality, without religious bias, and you call us criminals. You build atomic bombs, you wage wars, you murder, you cheat and lie to us and try to make it believe it's for our own good, yet we're the criminals. It seems like in a lot of ways, Bitcoin really does embody those early ideas. This is from the Hacker Manifesto by The Mentor. This was in FRAC years ago. But yes, he continues, I am a criminal. My crime is that of curiosity. My crime is that of judging people by what they say and think, not what they look like. My crime is that of outsmarting you, something that you will probably never forgive me for. I'm a hacker, and this is my manifesto. You may stop this individual, but you can't stop us all. After all, we're all alike. So just a classic little piece of internet history there. But yes, my favorite Bitcoin FUD, I love the tulips. I read about it and heard about it in history class, and you're going through the things and you're like, okay, the Federal Reserve, all the money's fake and it's just endlessly printed. And you're like, okay, I'm dealing with that. That's enough of a mind F, right? But then they tell you at one point in Amsterdam, tulips were so valued that uniquely colored ones, very genetic, cool, eugenics tulip breeding, could sell for the price of an entire house. And you're like, wow. And you read about the tulip mania and how it went up and down. And I just think that Bitcoin's doing a great job for history, spreading the word about tulip mania. And whenever they write an article and they compare Bitcoin, this incredibly complex internet thing that they don't understand. And they thought about the internet too. They're like, what is this internet? www, what's this at sign or whatever they said, the pound sign. And it's the same thing. They just don't understand the new technology. They're looking for a historical example. And I used to say this all the time on Mad Bitcoins and stuff. I was like, there's no historical example for this. We've never switched over to a digital currency. There's going to be all these different firsts along the way. And it's going to blow people's minds because they don't have an example where they can say, oh, that's what happens when humans switch from a government controlled currency. You can print as much as you want.
There is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve
to a digital currency where it's locked in and Satoshi's already decided 21 million is enough. So yeah, we're going to just have to live through that and then see how it turns out.
It's so funny, isn't it? Because the tulip mania truly is the fiat side of things. Fiat is the tulip mania because they can print infinite amount of money. It's literally not, there's no end to it. So, there's the tulip mania. The same sort of thing happened with electric cars since the 80s, 70s. They've been saying, oh, do you want to drive a golf cart? They're too slow. It's just this nonsense that they tell you and everyone believes it. And that's just the same with the tulip mania. It's like, it's the total opposite of what they're saying.
Yeah, no, you raised a really good point. The whole point about tulips was that suddenly people realized that they could grow them, and then everyone grew them, and then the supply just kept on going up infinitely. But the whole point of Bitcoin is that there's a cap, and therefore you can't mint anymore, you can't print anymore, you can't put any more Bitcoin in the ground and let it grow. So it's the opposite of tulips.
Maybe.
The tulips are a lot more like NFTs, really.
Yeah.
Someone said something really smart about NFTs. They're like, well, with Bitcoin, it's kind of like a dollar. Like I could trade you $1 and you could go buy a soda, right? There are many dollars like this dollar. But the NFT is a really unique custom dollar. And that's good, right? Because it's unique and custom. But it's also like it doesn't fit in the soda machine. It's not compatible. Like it's going to be a lot harder, I think, to find a buyer for that dollar rather than for the universal dollar that fits with everything else. But go ahead, Oscar, you had more on this?
No. That was also exactly my thought that tulip comparison would fit better like to what we see at the moment on the NFT market. I think that will become very, very interesting since like I'm not so deep into it, but what I've discovered like also with that sport cards like from NBA and so on, they're really like also not only that they're like they're printed like out of thin air, like they're also on they're just circulating and gated on gated platforms, and I think that will be really interesting what will be developed here soon.
Yeah, I definitely think the place to be in NFTs is to be the one making them or selling them or owning the platform, not necessarily the one buying them. If you're buying them, you need to be buying them the way I buy things for my REM collection. Like it has no value. I'm buying it because I like it, because it's a collectible. Like, but I'm not buying it as a like, I think it's a collectible, but in the back of my head, it's going to be worth $1 million. I'm not buying it that way. If you're buying it that way, that's where you're going to get into the troubles, and especially if you're spending rent money or something like that on a NFT collection. Like, don't spend rent money on baseball cards. They're cool, but like they're baseball cards.
But spend the stimmies check on that.
That's your stimmy check. You spend it however you want. I think we're going to move to the end of the show here. Dan, Eve, are you ready with a prediction or a story of the week? What's been going on?
My story of the week is going to be a really lame one, but it'll be about a warning for people. I got the MacBook M1 and I only had 8 gigabyte of memory on it. I went for a bigger hard drive and thought, oh, it's all efficient in that. So just in case you're out in the market, I know, sorry, it's not Bitcoin related, but obviously it is a big decision point, especially if you're paying Bitcoin for it. So it is Bitcoin related, is get more memory. And that's my boring story of the week.
Get more memory. That's good advice. I'm also on a computer story here. I just got a great little port adapter. It adds 4 more USB ports to my laptop. So once again, I'm still suffering here with the Macs, but Amazon 24-hour delivery. I just ordered more ports. They just arrive. It's amazing. Josh Shigala, a prediction or a story of the week?
I have nothing this week. I have nothing. We have a little competition running on Vaultoro to choose the next ERC20, talking of tulips, that's available on Vaultoro. And if we choose the coin that you chose, you'll go in the running for $500 worth of that tulip.
You can get all the tulips. Oscar, prediction or story of the week? Go ahead. Gotta unmute though.
Sorry, Bob. The story of the week is like we have planned to open up our gastronomic business next week, but nowadays you can plan with nothing. And I just saw like a paper hanging in another store that said like, hey, guys, we don't know when we will open again. Please call the government. Yeah, possibly they can tell you we don't know nothing anymore. Yeah, and that is also when we come back like to the HCPP or the manifesto. I remember, yeah, that is like embrace uncertainty. That was one conclusion from one talk, and yeah, exactly here we are. Yeah, we haven't planned that event, but now we are right into the biggest science fiction we could ever imagine. Yeah, and this is great. What a time to be alive and Bitcoiner. Yeah, what the story of the week again should be like. What would we be without Bitcoin? Yeah. Where should we take our positive energy, our beliefs, or whatever, like, if not from the network money now, yeah? If you see all the people outside, wow, tough.
Well, that's why I was so glad to get into Bitcoin back in the day. Before I was into like kind of negative things where I just disagreed with things or thought that people were doing bad things and you'd be critical of them. With Bitcoin, you could be positive about something. You could be like, Bitcoin is a good thing. You can get into it. You can try it out. You can send it around. You can do things with it. It's more of a system than like a against thing. But yeah, I agree with you with the inability to plan. I've really felt that for the last year. I haven't planned on going any trips. I haven't been able to schedule things. I'm not good at like self-motivating myself without external things and deadlines, and all the deadlines went away. So, but it is starting to turn around. They've got 100 to 200 million vaccinated in the US, and hopefully this is going to control the virus. And then if the virus gets controlled, then we open everything up and go back to normal. So then we can start planning things and going to conferences. So I think there's a little light out there. There's 3, maybe 4 vaccines, and we can go up and down on the vaccines. But again, science is trying to fix this. Science is trying to fight the virus. Let's go science, team humans. That's what I would say. But yeah, we'll have to see. Pretty soon we can start planning going to conferences again, I think, which would be nice. Everyone check out shop.worldcryptonetwork.com. We've got all kinds of shirts, and when you buy them, it benefits the network. It sends like $5 or $10 our way. So check out the HAL Finny mug and the Trezors Don't Float 2.0. These are both designed by Philippe, and they're pretty cool. So be sure to give us a thumbs up and a share. We've watched the Bitcoin group today. We've also got Today in Bitcoin. We've been doing daily news shows. So be sure to check those out. Like Josh said, he joined us the other day. We did some charts on the news. So we're going to do more of that in the future. And we're working on lots of other shows and neat ways to entertain you and talk about Bitcoin. So thanks so much for joining us. Until next time, bye-bye.